Earlier today, Leon Edwards' head coach, Dave Lovell, went on Submissive Radio and made excuse after excuse after excuse and continued to put down Belal Muhammad. And I'm just quite frankly sick of it. I called this. I'm going to take a little bit of a victory lap. I told you guys, listen, Belal Muhammad's going to bully Leon Edwards. And not only is he going to bully him and take the welterweight strap off of him, they're going to make nothing but excuses afterwards. I called it from the very beginning, but that's not all we're going to look at. We're not just going to look at Leon Edwards' coach making excuses. We're going to look at some things that Leon Edwards has said in the past that make these excuses look even more pathetic. I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. Leon and his coach have been so dismissive of Belal Muhammad for the last 2 years, really even longer than that, but mainly in the public for the last year or two. And now they lose to him after saying he's a shit fighter. And now all of a sudden, well, I only lost because of this. I only lost because of that. I knew this was coming. I saw it coming from a mile away. And we're going to expose it all in this video because I'm getting sick of guys losing fights and then coming out afterwards. Well, I wouldn't have lost if it wasn't for this. Well, I would. And it's just like bullshit excuses. So I want to start off with something a little bit weird. I've not done this in a video before. But let's take a little bit of a victory lap. As you can see now, I'm reacting to my own video. I'm just going to show you about 30 seconds of my video. But this isn't the only time I said this. I've said this countless times, live streams, my main dedicated prediction video for Belal Muhammad, Leon Edwards. This is actually for my full card predictions. But listen, I called it right here. I said he's going to lose, and I said he's going to make nothing but excuses afterwards. Listen to this. But I'm telling you, I've been saying this since, pretty much after the Sean Brady fight. I believe in Belal. I picked against him so many times. He went out there against Gilbert Burns on short notice and had 5-round cardio. He's been off for 14 months preparing for nobody else but Leon Edwards. This is so bizarre right now. I feel so weird right now, but listen to the next 15 seconds. He knew I'm fighting Leon Edwards, at least we hoped. And now he's getting that opportunity. And also, Leon Edwards, I can already imagine the excuses afterwards. Well, we had a fight at a weird timing. He's been complaining about that. It is unfortunate that it's going to be a weird time in the UK. I can already hear the excuses. And sure enough, he went on Submissive Radio. He was relaxed as could be. Dave Lovell, this is his coach. And he made nothing but excuses. But before we get into that, we're going to make these excuses look even worse. We're going to make them look even worse. I want to look at an interview that Leon Edwards did on the MMA Hour back in late May, where he said some ridiculous things. But in addition to the ridiculous things he said about Belal Muhammad, where he was very dismissive of him and was kind of shitting on him and acting like he didn't want to fight him and big timing him, he also talked about those excuses that he made about the whole, well, the main event's going to be going on at 5 a.m. UK time. How was he going to address that? Because he knew this for 3 months that this was going to happen. He's going to defend his belt at like 4 or 5 a.m. local time. He knew this. And as you can see in this interview, you'll hear what he has to say about it. Let's take a listen. Because this already makes the excuses that head coach Dave Lovell made embarrassing. I mean, they're already pathetic. I mean, Leon Edwards, I'm not going to play it for you because I'll probably get copyright by the UFC. But if you watched Leon Edwards' in-cage post-fight interview, they were asked, oh, is there anything that surprised you? He said, I've been tired all week. I've been tired all week. Like, dude, come on now. You couldn't wake up at 3 a.m. for 3 months and train for the next 3 hours and be super active and peak at that time. Like, you're supposed to be a professional athlete. Now you're crying, I'm tired. But let's listen to what he had to say. He was asked about it by Ariel Helwani.
I'm going to adjust. I got like a great sleep specialist guy. I got a meeting with him on Thursday.
In case you didn't understand that, I'm going to adjust. I hired a sleep specialist guy. I'm meeting him Thursday. This is in May.
So I'll figure out what he says and just go from there with my team. I got a smart team around me, and we've been winning now for 8-9 years. So we know what we're doing and how to approach the changes, And I've done it before when I fought in Manchester, and that was.
He knows what he's doing. He's got a great team. He's hiring a sleep coach, and he's done it before. Back when Bisping fought Dan Henderson, they did the same thing. Okay, they did the same thing. I understand why the UK fans don't like it, but they're catering to the North American audience because that's where the pay-per-view sales come from. Next clip. He's asked directly, and I think I might even left a question here, to be quite honest. Asked directly by Ariel Helwani, are you worried about fighting that late?
Not at all. Like I said, it's at the start it was like frustrating, but now it's like you gotta get all your ducks in order, right? Like, what do I need to do to make sure I'm at peak performance come fight night? You know, so that's where I'm at now and getting it all sorted out, and I'll be not more than ready.
He'll be more than ready. He's not worried about it at all. I didn't have the question in there, but Ariel asked him, "Are you worried about fighting late? You only have 3 months' notice to acclimatize your body to fighting at that time. Are you worried about it? No, I'll be fine." So let's remember that when we look at what Dave Lovell has to say. We already know what Leon had to say immediately afterwards. He didn't do a post-fight scrum. A couple more things I want to look at from this interview because it just makes it so much funnier now, to be quite honest. I told you guys in the lead up to this fight, I said Leon is making a critical mistake. He keeps shitting on Belal. He keeps downplaying Belal's skills. What happens if you lose? You acted like this guy's a nobody. You act like he sucks. You act like he isn't good. These next couple clips are going to make the loss to Belal look even worse for Leon Edwards.
Tribulation I went through in my career and be able to headline UFC 300, it would have been like a moment for me, you know. But like I said, it is what it is, and we got no one's remember his name in Manchester, so all good.
Nobody's gonna remember his name in Manchester. He's going down as the undisputed champion that took that welterweight strap off you. So look at his little shit-eating grin. Nobody's gonna remember his name. Good joke. People have been saying that forever. You've been saying he's horrible, he's slow, his striking sucks. Now you lost to him and you got bullied by him and you got dominated by him. So what now? What now? I just wanted to play that. And one other thing I wanted to play, actually 2 other things I want to play from this interview really quickly. I thought this was literally hysterical. Listen to what he has to say about Belal Muhammad. I think I left a question here, so I'll let you listen to the question and answer. But it's about Belal Muhammad getting beat up by everyone on Leon Edwards' team, including his coach and his brother and whatnot.
Fight as well. And around that time, Belal tweeted, "Leon, his manager, his coach, his brother, all bitches." And then you replied, "All 4 of these men would beat you in a fight." LOL.
They would.
Tim too.
Beat him in a fight.
Tim too.
He says his manager, coach, and his brother would all beat Belal in a fight. And I know this is just some trash talk. I honestly think he might have believed this. Maybe not the manager.
Tim had a kickboxing fight the other day.
Saw that.
So I think Tim beats him, Dave beats him, they all beat him. My brother would kill him. You know what I mean? So I feel like he needs to just calm down. And I don't understand where this confidence is coming from. You know, like he has improved since we last fought. Like he has, but I don't get the confidence and the arrogance and the entitlement. You know, like relax. I went through the same kind of longer road than he did. You know?
He went through a longer road than he did, aka a 10-fight unbeaten streak as well. But he had to beat Nate Diaz to get a title shot. You know, Belal had to go through every top contender under the sun to get a title shot. But the reason I wanted to play that is usually I don't hold guys accountable to kind of, you know, just a little bit of banter, a little bit of trash talk. You know, oh, my coaches would beat him. Okay, whatever. He's just trying to build a fight. But it's like, yeah, I don't know where this confidence comes from, you know, and where this entitlement comes from. And I went through a longer road than him. What a joke. What an embarrassment. And if that means that if Leon really believes that Belal would get beat up by his coach and, you know, his brother and, you know, Tim, the manager, what does that say for Leon? He got dunked on his bald spot by Belal Muhammad. Dumped on his bald spot. So, and absolutely dominated. And then one last clip I want to show you. And the reason I want to show you this is because this just aged so badly. And this actually really pissed me off. Ariel Helwani was trying to set up Conor McGregor versus Leon Edwards back in May. What a joke that is. And how funny is it now? Leon's not the champ and Conor McGregor still hasn't fought. And I told you guys that way back then that all this was going to happen. Take a listen.
Is there any chance he wins that fight, you win a month later, and your next opponent is Conor McGregor for the welterweight title?
That'd be good. You know, I feel like let's
this a
give him
possibility?
opportunity to be. Yeah, 100%. Why not? You know, I feel like let's give him opportunity to become through division world champion. Give me the opportunity to take out a guy like Conor McGregor.
What a joke. What a joke. But yeah, Conor pulled out with a broken pinky toe. Leon got dumped on his bald spot by Belal Muhammad and his welterweight strap taken from him. One more clip I want to take a look at. This is from back right after the Colby Covington fight, Leon Edwards, UFC 296. I want to play this clip from Dave Lovell, his coach. This actually really pissed me off. I think I did an entire dedicated video on this. He acted like Belal didn't deserve a title shot and that he'd like to see Leon Edwards fight Gilbert Burns. What a joke.
Preference. Well, let's put it real. Bilal's earned his place, hasn't he? Even though he still hasn't done what Leon did. It didn't go through the tribulations Leon did. But,
he hasn't done what Leon's done. He hasn't gone through the tribulations. AK get rocked by Nate Diaz in the 5th round. Because all Belal's performances were dominant. Maybe that's what he's talking about. But then what he says after that is really disturbing.
What is earned himself his contendership. To be honest, if I really had a choice, but I don't think it will happen, I would like Leon to fight Burns. But Burns had two bites of the cherry. I think maybe they'd want Burns maybe to have a couple more before.
So there you go. He wants Gilbert Burns. What a joke that is. I just wanted to play that again. Just, yeah, he hasn't gone through what Leon's gone through. I'm telling you, I find it so weird when coaches start getting involved in the trash talk. And Dave Lovell has always been doing that for Leon Edwards. He's giving him inspirational speeches in the cage because Leon doesn't seem to want to fight back. And he's also talking trash for Leon outside the cage because Leon doesn't really talk that much trash. Now, we skip the present day. Look, this may not seem like an interview. This may look like Dave Lovell's posing for his eHarmony profile pic. But this is the latest submissive radio interview with Dave Lovell. They make their money from their views on their interviews. I'm using their interviews. I will link the full interview down in the description if you want to go check it out. I'm just going to show you a couple minutes of it here. But I'm just going to give you the spoiler. Excuse after pathetic excuse. All under the guise of, and you'll see it in the very first clip, I'm not trying to make any excuses. I don't want to make any excuses, but let me make excuses. And then he kind of is very dismissive later on of Belal Muhammad towards the end of the interview as well. It's just an absolute joke. And it's crazy. I don't think I even left any of the questions in here, but all the questions are leading questions like, yeah, Leon didn't look like himself in there. And Dana said that he doesn't deserve a rematch, but what do you think? Just stuff like that. Well, let's listen. Let's just jump right into it.
First of all, you just have to excuse me because I've nearly lost my voice, which you can understand from Sunday.
I left this in there because I just thought it was so fun. I know you're going to be there yelling. It's a loud crowd, but he lost his voice giving Leon Edwards motivational speeches because Leon quits and fights. I'm telling you. He quit in that Kamaru Usman fight. He just got that lucky head kick KO. But he lost his voice. And he also says something very, very telling right here. That Belal Muhammad traumatized Leon Edwards mentally. Because I'm telling you, Leon is mentally weak. If you can't see that now, I don't know what to tell you. But you can hear it from his coach.
Good morning. From the fight. But yeah, Leon, you know what? He's took the loss. It more hurts him mentally than physically, because physically all he had was a couple of mouses under the eye. But emotionally, performance, he was like broken-hearted over it. But physically okay, just mentally a bit, traumatized.
So Belal traumatized him. I thought in the very first clip he talked about the excuses, but it's actually in the second clip here. He's asked the question, about, what did you think of how it went on Saturday? And this is what he has to say, just a litany of excuse after excuse with injuries, and he calls them niggles. So I think I've heard that once before, but that's just crazy. Injuries, and then he starts blaming the timing. You'll see it in a second.
Where Leon was concerned, a lot of people don't know this, and I'm not making any kind of excuses for him.
I'm not making any kind of excuses for him. But goes on to make 100 million excuses. Again, he's going to talk about injuries. He's going to talk about the timing of the fight. He's going to talk about, I thought Leon should have pulled out, so on and so forth.
But we had a few niggles in camp. His back was niggling him. So he couldn't wrestle the way he really needed to, offensively and defensively, because of the niggle that recurred about maybe 2-3 times. But not taking nothing away from Belal's performance. He did well. He done well. The best man won on the night. But Leon will be back.
It was a back injury. He couldn't wrestle offensively or defensively the way he wanted to. And he says the best man won on the night. But later on he kind of says, it's okay if you go out there and you fight your heart out and the best man wins. But it really wasn't that. When you can't perform. You'll see the clip. I don't even need to look into the future. Look, guys, this is a horrible look. Even if this is true, you decide to show up. You decided to show up, and now you lose. You get dumped on your bald spot, and now you got to be like, oh, yeah, well, if it wasn't for this, it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for his back, if it wasn't for the timing, if it wasn't for the niggles. I don't even feel right saying that. I feel like I'm I don't even know. That doesn't even sound right, all right? But if it wasn't for those injuries, we would have beat Leon, is essentially what he's saying. It's just, I mean, I knew this was coming. I told you guys this was coming. And he goes on to it even more here when he talks about, well, was Leon going to pull out? And he says, well, we had a discussion about it. And then he goes on to talking about, well, he was going to doctors and chiropractors and whatnot. Take a listen.
And I was very dubious because this niggles was going on for about maybe five or so weeks.
By the way, if the video freezes at all, he just has a bad connection, so there's nothing I can do. It's just the actual interview itself.
On and off, he had to go to a chiropractor, regular massages.
He had to go to a chiropractor and massages. Yeah, he would have won if it wasn't for those chiropractors.
Again, after one session, it was back to square one. So in the back part of my mind, I was thinking, well, should we go for this? But because he hadn't fought for so long, Leon said he wanted it, so we just pushed forward with the injury, trained through the injury, and tried to, get through and get a victory. Unfortunately, it never happened.
Look, it's just pathetic. Yeah, well, we tried to push through, and he had to go to the chiropractor, and he had to have massages. He showed up and fought. He lost. Now you're making him look like a bitch because you guys have been shitting on Belal for months, if not years. Now you got dominated by him, and you're saying, oh, well, I wouldn't have got dominated by him if I didn't have these niggles. Oh, no, my back hurts. You showed up to fight. You acted, at the press conference, you were saying, oh, he's too slow. He's not good enough. He's not skilled enough. It doesn't mean anything to beat him. It's just another name on the resume. Now that you lost, all of a sudden, excuse after excuse after excuse. And in the next clip I'm going to show you, he starts talking about the time change and how it affected Leon and what a joke it is that Leon had to fight at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning.
You tell me, whichever fighter have you seen in his own country come out at 5:30, 5 a.m.?
Michael Bisping, Dan Henderson. Leon Edwards back at that same fight card. Other UK fighters on that very card. I'm not saying it's ideal, but you've known for 3 months, 4 months that this was going to happen. If you're not an educated adult to adjust to that, if he had to go to Vegas, he would have adjusted to it. So set your alarm maybe. Wake up at 2 a.m. Get into training. Get into a routine. You know what time you're fighting. Go to America for 3 months and live on their time zone. You know what I mean? Like, you guys knew you had to prepare for this. It's not like they found out the week of the fight, everything was changed up, and they get to make this excuse. But, yeah, tell me another fighter that had to do this. This is pathetic.
In the morning to fight. Realistically, it's a joke, really. Belal never really had to adjust because his clock is set to the times of what we was fighting to. But Leon in his own country had to adapt as if he was climatizing, as if he was fighting in another country and fighting at 5:30 in the morning. It just doesn't seem right somehow, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Belal didn't have to adjust, and Leon had to adjust. You knew for 3 months. You accepted the fight. You knew the timing. Apparently, Leon hired a coach. I showed you the clip from earlier. We're hiring a specialist. I mean, you really need a specialist to tell you, listen, write down a schedule. Wake up at 2 a.m., and then from there on out, or wake up at 3 a.m., depending on what time you know exactly you want to peak. If it's 5 a.m., you probably want to be up for a couple hours beforehand. So wake up at 12 a.m. for all I care. Figure out a schedule and stick to that schedule for 3 months or at least a month beforehand. You accepted this fight, you knew for months, and now it's like, oh, it just doesn't seem right. Well, then you shouldn't have accepted the fight, I guess. You shouldn't have showed up. You should have pulled out of the fight, I guess. It just makes no sense. Next clip is where he kind of says, like, basically, oh, well, if he would have gave his all, it would be one thing, but now it's just mentally heartbreaking because he kind of alludes that the best man did not win, which I just thought was disgraceful.
He lost it. That's what really is getting to, the way he lost. We wouldn't mind he have lost the fight and he put his heart and soul of it and it was a blood and sweat guts fight and he's lost and the better man won on the night. We got no problem with that because we're fighters.
So if the better man won on the night and it was a good fight, we could accept that. But that's not what happened, is what he's saying.
But when you lose, when you know you haven't given your all, you haven't, for whatever reason.
When you haven't given your all because you're injured, is what he's saying here. It's just ridiculous.
It's heart-rendering, it's heartbreaking, and Leon won't settle on that. We're just rebuilding now.
This all just confirms to me even more that Leon Edwards is mentally broke. I mean, if you can't see that now, it's crazy. I mean, the entire Belal fight, he needs motivational speeches in between rounds just to convince him to try to fight back. I mean, that last few seconds of the 5th round, why couldn't he try some of that the whole entire fight? Why didn't he try some of that in the 3rd round when he had his back? Try to go to full mount. No, he just held onto the body triangle there. Didn't try to do any damage, even though he knows he's already down 2 rounds. So the fact that he says, yeah, if we would have known the better man, blah, 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 and so on and so forth, just a disgrace. Now, this next clip is actually a good clip for him. It actually made him look good. I actually respected it a little bit, especially when you compare and contrast that to someone like Colby Covington. He talks about names, who Leon wants to fight next, and he says, we want to fight some of the up-and-coming guys like, JDM or Ian Gary. And he says Ian Gary's like a young name that could put us back on track. And it proves 2 points here. One, at least Leon and his coach are willing to fight top contenders. But also, they realize that Ian Gary's a big fight because he's a big name in the division. And he's earned his spot in the division. And it just further cements that Colby Covington's an absolute joke for ducking him.
He came to Renegade. He was amongst us. He was getting tapped out while he was learning. But, Ian Gary's a name that obviously would put Leon back on track.
So there you go. Name that would put Leon back on track. Former champions now his coach is calling out Ian Machado Gary. Colby doesn't want that smoke at all. He ducked him like his life depended on it, like a complete and utter embarrassment. Then 2 more clips I want to show you. And this isn't that big of a deal, but again, it's just a bad look when you just got dominated by the guy. He's like, oh yeah, I'm sure Shavkat will beat him. I mean, come on now.
If that is the next title fight.
I believe Shavkat beats him. Shavkat is a machine. He's got that machine-like mentality. He can fight. He can wrestle. But he likes to bang them out with his hands to prove that he's not just a wrestling kind of guy. The part of the world from where them boys are from, they're once they're focused in, and I don't think Belal will have enough firepower to keep Shavkat off him.
Imagine saying that. I don't think Belal has enough firepower to keep Shavkat off of him. And maybe that's what he truly thinks. I'm not saying he doesn't think that. Well, Leon didn't have enough firepower to keep Belal off of him. So what does that say about Leon? It's just embarrassing. I understand this could be his opinion. But it's just embarrassing when you just got dominated by a guy and then you go on to do your first interview and you make excuses and then say, oh, yeah, I think he gets smoked by the next guy. Well, if he gets smoked, then that means your fighter gets smoked by that guy as well. Just, it's embarrassing.
So I believe Shavkat would beat him.
Yeah, and that's an exciting fight as well for Leon to fight, Shavkat for the... Does that excite you, the idea of Leon fight?
So he goes on in a second. This is the last clip I want to show you about, again, Leon couldn't sustain the wrestling. He's implying injury here as well. So it was a 19-minute interview. Probably 12, 15 minutes of it was excuses.
Leon would obviously put the wrestling correct. I wouldn't say his wrestling, what he did wasn't adequate for what he did during the fight. It's just that he couldn't sustain it, as you've seen. And the wrestling Belal on his back 24/7, it drained him.
So if he fought Shavkat, he would put the wrestling right, and he couldn't sustain it because he's injured. I mean, why'd you even accept the fight then? If you're going to go on a tour afterwards, well, the timing wasn't good enough, and who else has ever been asked to do this? And well, the better man didn't win. He could accept it if the better man won, but he fought injured and fought at a bad time, and he was tired, so he lost. And now, he's mentally, he's traumatized by it. Belal Muhammad not only bullied Leon, not only dumped him on his bald spot, but also add to the list, traumatized him. And I wouldn't have made this video if the history of Dave Lovell and Leon Edwards of being so dismissive of Belal, and now afterwards, after being so dismissive of him, instead of giving him any credit, instead of giving him some credit for winning the welterweight title, you got to say, oh, the timing was horrible. Oh, he was injured, his back was injured. It's just an embarrassment, acting like the best man didn't win. Complete and utter humiliation, especially after you're begging for Gilbert Burns, because Belal Muhammad doesn't have a name, and Belal Muhammad doesn't have much for Leon, and this and that. And Leon's saying 3 months ago he's hiring a specialist to address some of these issues. It just makes them look like absolute clowns. And it's even more annoying because the majority of the MMA community isn't giving Belal Muhammad his credit. So I might even make a video about that later this week. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.